Hello everybody and welcome back to Chaos Head. So, quick reminder before we get started is that I did a Let's Play of this series, or at least I started one, many years ago. However, as a result of some technical difficulties, if I recall correctly, those were that I was not able to load my saves for some reason. I think that occurred shortly after updating my version of Windows or upgrading my version of Windows from Windows 7 to Windows 10. I think that might have maybe screwed with something, but I'm not 100% certain on that. I think it was around that time that this series basically got the axe because of technical difficulties. Fast forward to late 2019, I want to say it was December 2019, but don't quote me on that exactly. Somebody left a comment on what I think was the last video of the series that I had uploaded at the time, which basically saying, hey, there's been some basically fan patches that have been released that improve the game. They fix various issues, one of which is that I no longer have to use app locale or set my system's locale to be Japan, either or, if I want to do a more permanent that requires restarts to change, or a temporary one via app locale. So yeah, that fixes that issue. Now, before we get started, I do also go and mention that I am needing to actually play this game not in full screen. Because for some reason, with the fan patches installed, if I am in full screen, I cannot alt-tab at all, which kind of gets in the way of being able to do things. Namely, making sure that things are being recorded properly, being able to tell it to actually, tell OBS to actually hook on to the ChäoS Head window instead of any other window that I may have previously been recording. So yeah, this not my preferred way of doing this. It's a very tiny window because the max resolution for this game is something like 800 by 600 for its basically internal resolution. So I have this very tiny window basically. Luckily, I can move it wherever I want, so I'll be able to read the dialogue. I'm just gonna have to read dialogue basically from OBS's preview window instead of from the game, because otherwise I can't see shit, because it's just gonna be too small a font to easily read. But let's go ahead and get started. Let me get my timer started. As per usual, this first part is gonna be twice or double the usual length. So normally these videos will be about half an hour, roughly, give or take. But these are going to be, this video in particular is going to be an hour long. Let's go ahead and get started. There we go. Now we are needing to start from scratch. Because, well, one, I don't have my old saves, but even if I did, I don't think they would work. And even if they did work, I'd want to restart anyway.
視線が空から降ってくる。その瞳はいつも僕を見つめていて、眼差しは熱くて真っ黒な雨雲を突き抜けて、雨のように僕へと降り注ぐ。僕を見るな。雨の冷たさより背中を預けている瓦礫の冷たさのせいで、さっきから体の震えが止まらない。ひどく寒い。突き刺さってくる誰のものかもわからない天からの視線。それから逃げるように僕はわずかに首を持ち上げて周囲を見回す。そこにあるのは崩壊した町。そこにあるのは絶望。そこにあるのは死。そこにあるのは無。誰もいない。誰も動いていない。誰も生きていない。 こえるのはただ降り続ける雨の音だけ。このまま全てを、生きているものも死んでいるものも、全てを優しく包み込んで洗い流してしまうんだろうか。全部の出来事が単なる妄想だったらよかったんだけど、どうやらそうでもないらしい。体が動かない。動かせるのはかろうじて首と瞳だけ。体が震えているけど、そんなのただの生理現象でしかない。僕の意志じゃない。僕は身を震わせたいなんて思ってない。僕の自由にならないなら、こんなの僕の体じゃない。あるいは、生まれた時から僕は自由なんかじゃなかったかもしれない。心の保管してある場所なんて誰にもわからないんだ。それなのに、一体誰がこの体の中に僕の心があるって言い切れるんだ。でも、だったら僕はどこにいたんだろう。僕はここにいるのかな。僕はどこにもいないのかな。すべてが静止している。
I swear for some reason this feels like it's longer than I remember it being.
ふと死の雨以外の音が響く。無の中から浮かび上がってくるたった一つの湯。君は誰？
But that's very clearly me just misremembering.
その肌が青白く見えるのは雨の冷たさに凍えているから？それとも君がもう死んでいるから？でも彼女は震えていなかった。そして前髪で隠れそうになっているその瞳は、僕を見るな。ひどく悲しそうにも見える。狂気じみているようにも見える。何も映していないようにも見える。もしも世界には僕と彼女の二人だけしかいなくて、こうしてお互いだけを永遠に見つめ合っていたら、僕の世界は彼女の瞳に映るものだけになるのかな。彼女の世界は僕の瞳に映るものだけになるのかな。彼女の瞳に映るものは僕、僕の瞳に映るものは彼女。そう考えると世界は途端に矮小化する。
ね
不意に僕の耳に届くとてもきれいなノイズ。彼女はうなだれて両手を左右に広げる。まるであの雨雲の上へ向けて飛び立とうとするかのように、あるいはこの雨すべてを受け止めようとするかのように。
あなたを見つめ
If I recall correctly, there's like an opening lyrics or an opening like song sequence coming up. I may mute that section
雨の薄膜の向こうで
to avoid dealing
君は
with
どんな顔をしている？
content ID matches and shit on
殺してあ
YouTube.
げる。
天使。 乱舞する光の羽は僕を祝福しているのか、それとも、ああ、そうか。理解したよ。それで僕を殺してくれるんだね。ゆっくりと倒れている僕の前に彼女が膝をつく。未だに彼女はうなだれたまま。僕の頭をそっと抱えてくる。僕を見てくれないことに、僕はほっとして、ただ身を委ねた。耳元でささやき、綺麗なノイズ。でも、よく聞こえない。暖かくて、柔らかくて、優しくて、甘美な感触。それは麻酔のようで、不思議なことに体の震えがゆっくりと収まっていく。彼女のかすかな鼻息が僕の頬をくすぐる。とても甘い匂い。ふと胸に圧迫感を覚えた。彼女の持っていた大きな剣が僕の胸の皮膚を裂き、肉をえぐり、骨の間を縫い、ゆっくりと体の中に沈み込んできている。でも、彼女のキスという麻酔にかけられて、もう痛みを感じない。こんなにも優しく殺してくれるから、不意に切なくなって、涙が溢れそうになって、それをごまかすために、彼女の頭越しに雨を落とし続けている鈍色の空を見上げた。空が滲んでいるのは雨のせい、涙のせい。もうあの視線も感じない。もう何もない。薄れゆく意識の中で僕は空へと手を伸ばす。誰か教えて。僕たちのあの空はどこへ行ったんだろう。
I can't see the gaze. Not being able to see it even though it's watching me, I need to move this so I can actually text better. Also, it is going really fucking quick. And I know I have that set to fast, but I didn't expect it to have an effect there as well, but looks like it might. The sensation at the back of your neck. Is that just what's called being too self-conscious? Or else a phobia of being watched? Until I reached middle school, surely God is watching over me. That's seriously what I thought. An essay I wrote around the same time centered around that kind of theme. Of course, thinking back on it now, I was a kid and overly full of myself. No matter how much you look at it, that really stings. If somebody else happened to read it now, I'd shut myself up for the rest of my life. I still remember the title of the essay. Drop this all the way down. Not all the way down. Lower. It's still just a tad bit fast. My liking, personally. The backrest of my chair I was leaning against creaked, letting out a sound like a hoarse voice.
僕を見るな。
Fed up, I murmured that as I looked up at the gloomy ceiling. Of course, there wasn't an answer. This is my room. I live by myself. There isn't a single human being in this room besides me. I tried turning around. The room is arranged lengthwise and a little dim. The only source of illumination here is the lamp set on my computer desk. The room doesn't have any windows, so it's dark to begin with. There's absolutely no way to tell what it's like outside. There's no way to tell if it's noon or night. I raised my voice to the dark corners of the room.
僕の名前は西条匠。17歳。水明学園2年。と言っても学校にはほとんど行ってないけど。まあそれでも勉強はできる方だよ。定期テストはちゃんと受けてる。しかもそれなりに上位の点数を取ってるからね。頭はいいんだ。
It wasn't as if yelling out was going to make anything happen. No one would come running. The darkness just went on being there in the form of darkness. But the dark arouses people's fantasies as well as nightmares. Sometimes, something that can't be seen is ultimately something unknown. Even if you know it's impossible, you can't help but wonder if maybe something might be lurking out there. Damn it. I have this habit of unintentionally exacerbating my own paranoia. As though to break away from that, I continue my speech.
僕は現在アウェイじゃなかった。渋谷で一人暮らしをしてる。この紅会館ビルは父さんの経営するビル会社の管理下にあるんだけど、その屋上に設置されたコンテナハウスを格安で借りてるんだ。街の環境は最悪。僕が住んでる新船町は小さな坂が多いから疲れるし、すぐ近くにラブホ街もあるし。ここが秋葉なら最高だったのに。ほんと渋谷ってひどい街だ。円数で言うとディーンズバレーくらいひどい。
ESO is an abbreviation for MMORPG I've pretty much made my life. Its official title is Empire Sweeper Online. I enter Baselard, that's the name of the world in ESO, pretty much every day, to the point of depriving myself of sleep. Dean's Valley is the name of an area that appears in ESO, and only aggravating monsters show up there. For all that they come at you with sickening special attacks, they don't drop any good items. The guys who hunt in Dean's Valley are idiots. Upper-level players quickly call it quits and head into the nearby Layat Forest. Naturally, I did the same.
というわけでドキュンと恋愛資本主義者が集まるこんな街は即刻滅ぶべきだね。 でもこの部屋の住み心地はまあまあ我慢できるレベル。PC とネット環境は最高水準クラスが揃ってるからね。まあ学生にしては上等の基地じゃないかな。あ、だから僕はこの部屋のことをベースって呼んでる。
Nothing but me ever moves in the room. Becoming aware of how dumb it was to go on talking to myself, I decided to stop my little self-introduction for whoever was watching me.
それにしても汚い部屋だな。
The room smelled of something rotting. I could feel the stagnancy of the air on my skin. Empty plastic bottles and the containers of already eaten convenience store lunches lay scattered across the floor. There were Aero game packages piled on top of the bed. Thanks to them, I ended up sleeping on the sofa mostly.
片付けろよな。誰だよ散らかしっぱなしにしたのは。僕か。
I was starting to get a little irritated at my own repulsive way of laughing. I took my frustration out on one of the plastic bottles laying at my feet. It I don't know how the hell I was about to say rebounded. It rebounded and looked about to come flying at the shelf where my figures were lined up, which led to me raising a scream and hastily straining to catch it. I couldn't let any harm come to my nearly 100 plus brides, sisters, and daughters. These girls are the precious existence that heals my heart. It's their shelf alone that I make sure to tidy up once a week. I investigate things like the angles from which they look the cutest and where they should stand on a daily basis, and, not wanting my darling big sisters and daughters to get dirty, I never neglect to dust them. Taking a relieved breath, I threw the empty bottle into a corner of the room and turned back to my PC. My personal computer is enshrined at the farthest back part of the room. Next to the monitor is Seiratan. I'm generally going to avoid doing honorifics. It's a little too cringe for me to say those, to be honest. A figure from my current favorite anime, Burachu, blood-tuned the animation, striking a moe pose and smiling at me.
Seira, kawaii yo, Seira.
Murmuring that after meeting her eyes, I grabbed a bottle of cola from beside my computer and drank it down. It was lukewarm, but I didn't really care.
さてと、円すらないと。
Settling down in my chair, I put both hands to the keyboard. It's the only thing that keeps me calm. Or, that calms me down, rather. My character in ESO, Neidhart, is a paladin that's already gone through every level and then reincarnated back to the first level twice. Obviously, he's currently at the max level 50. It's the highest rank you can get in any of the valid servers. Most people recognize me just from the nickname Neidhart der Blitzschnell. And I'm fairly certain I mispronounced the last bit there. They all treat me like a god. I've completed all the rare weapons, rare armor, and rare magic. My rare items completion percentage is 95%. Well, it's a bit of an uphill battle. I can never use all the money points I have, since I make pocket money through RMT, real money trade. I could live like this for half a year without needing to do any part-time work. I'm really good at chatting. I take care of all my basic communication this way. I've even helped other players out at the huge anonymous message board at Channel. I participate in epic threads a lot too. Oh yeah, that's right. In Furapara, a special networking service, you know, my friends list passed the 100-person mark ages ago. Respect, trust, it's all right here. I don't go to school. It's not that I don't want to go, it's just that there's no point to going. I can get all my studying done online. Studying at home is enough. But it seems that you've got to have this thing called sufficient credits to graduate, so I spend the absolute minimum amount of time at school that I have to. That's the smartest way to survive as a student. The parents always complain about it, which is why I created an ideal minimum attendance shift chart for myself. According to the chart, if I go 2.5 times a week, I'll be fine. The guys who go to school every day call me an otaku freak and look down on me, but from my perspective, the ones who stop thinking for themselves and just go to school as they're told are the real morons. In any case, my lifestyle here ain't so bad. Oh crap. I got all worked up about the gaze and completely forgot that I was chatting with Grim. Hey, Nightheart, what's up? You're not replying. You fall asleep or something? Grim's a friend I always team up with in ESO. We never met IRL, but we always talk online. On top of that, Grim brings me all kinds of valuable news. He's almost like some sort of information broker. Seated in my chair, I started typing. Oh. My bad, not so much falling asleep, it's just spaced out, lol. You must be pretty tired. Not enough sleep? You too busy with your girl, lol? Up late every night? I'm not interested in 3D girls. Grim and I talk about everything. We're not face to face, so I feel at ease talking about almost anything. But in real life, that's not the case. Then you mean the 2D world, Eroge? Everything always seems to be about Ero with you, lol. Come on, isn't it? You who's always fantasizing about Ero stuff. You were just all pumped up talking about it, schoolgirls in swimsuits. Oh yeah? I don't remember too well. But anyway, if that's what we're talking about, let me whip out my pet theory. Okay, it's got to be a school swimsuit plus glasses. And one of the... I don't recall this choice, to be honest, for some reason, but it definitely had to have been there. I just don't recall it. I really don't. And I'll be honest, I'm not too big on school swimsuits personally. The racing suits are better than the regular school suits. Sure. And of course, she has to be wearing a swim cap. Let's see, so glasses, no thanks. Actually, I'm more a fan of racing suits. A swimming cap's out of the question. No point in having it. Hey, roll on the floor laughing. You always have a thing for swimsuits, huh? Or you really have a thing for swimsuits, huh? Doesn't every guy? Use common sense. By the way, it's not about how much skin she's showing. It's the same as knowing that she's not wearing any panties in between, or any panties is better than catching an eye full of them. You say it's the same, but I'd be cool with either. What? Thou understand it, not the greatness of going commando? I'm with those who like 'em naked. You ass, you don't understand a single thing about Moe. Your libido's at full throttle. Well, that's what makes you Nightheart. It leaves me in shock. You also have a strange attraction to it. But also have a strange attraction to it. Don't phrase it with stuff like, but also. I got a little overheated there, but I'm aiming to be a cool type of character. Cool, lol. Don't laugh. So what were we talking about before I dozed off? Well, whatever the case, we were probably exchanging ESO-related news. Hey, don't forget like that. There's been some stuff going on in the 3D world recently. Like what? What do you mean? Shogun has entered the room. Nice to meet you, Lord Shogun. Yo. I tried greeting him, but Shogun didn't reply. What the fuck? Is he ignoring me? Despite the fact that I went out of my way to be friendly. Does he know who I am? Is he acting this rude regardless? Dude, I'm Nightheart der Blitzschnell. It's illegal to enter one of these chat rooms in the first place if you're just gonna lurk. Whatever, I don't give a shit. This is what's nice about the net. There's no need to bother yourself with pointless interpersonal relationships. So, what was it, Grim? I'm talking about those recent incidents. I don't know about anything going on in the third dimension. Anyway, it's gotta be something stupid, no? More or less. But it's still pretty shocking. Shocking. So that means a gory murder or something must have happened. It has been getting more dangerous around here recently. You're not gonna bring up the girl pics again, are you? You really can't handle Guro, huh? It's not like that. No, I really don't want to see it. But lately there have been a lot of composites and other shopped pictures around. They're set up as traps in lots of different places, and if I get tricked by one, I end up looking whether I want to or not.
まあ、少しは目が慣れてきちゃってるのかも。
Even though you're the strongest paladin in base lard? LOL. I don't PK. PK is an abbreviation for player kill. It refers to the dicks who take part in a certain kind of delinquent behavior, killing unrelated people in net games and stealing their equipment and money points. I don't do stuff that childish, since it goes against my policy of not breaking ESO's rules, but I do real money trading right and left. Well, I'd say left and right. Right and left doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense personally. Whatever. Okay, calm yourself on down, bold hero. New gen, do you know it? New gen? What's that? We haven't covered this yet, have we? Although Grim referred to it like it'd be natural for me to know it. What is it? The new generation of madness. Online. It's been shortened to New Gen. It's what they're calling a string of mysterious incidents that have been happening in Shibuya. They're all in your neighborhood. Ah, now that you mention, I kind of remember something about an accident. But I just vaguely knew about it and hadn't bothered to check the details. When I tried searching New Gen, I got some hits right away.
この1ヶ月の間に渋谷で発生した2つの事件のことをニュージェネと呼ぶ。その犠牲者は胎児を含めて7人。1つ目の事件は友人同士5人による高層ビルからの集団ダイブ。2つ目の事件では男性の体内から胎児が出てきた。これマジかよ。
A chill went down my spine. Before I knew it, I turned to look around my room again. There are plenty of links to older New Gen news on Taboo, so I went ahead and started skimming them. Ah yes, the Yahoo knockoff. The new generation madness, such are the incidents that have been causing a stir on the net for day after day. 2 instances of this have already occurred. One featured such a brutal method of killing that there were TV channels that forbore to express the criminal's behavior in words. Apparently, there are also rumors that the initial diving incident might also have been a homicide. All of the Dead Five's parents and friends declare that there's no way he would ever commit suicide. I can't come up with so much as a trace of a motive. Additionally, circumstantial evidence makes it difficult to think that they were attempting suicide. I took a quick look. Did it freak you out? Not really. It's not like it interests me. So I'll take a look. What's this?
グリムのやつ、僕をバカにして楽しんでるな。
He does this kind of thing once in a while. But if I hesitated, it hurt my reputation as Baselard's Nightheart. Setting aside real life, when it comes to ESO, I'm a god. I'm the strongest, I'm a knight of justice who knows everything and is stronger than anyone. Like I'd let him make a fool of me. I mustered my courage and clicked the URL. What? So it's just a shitty doodle? Photo of the victims' corpses. Ha ha ha, you got me. Who drew this, LOL? I drew it a little before, it took 2 minutes. A prodigy has appeared, LOL. Now that things calm down, I'm gonna hit the sack. Later. See you tomorrow in Baselard. Come to think of it, that Shogun guy was still here. I completely forgot about him, not that it mattered either way. I wasn't that sleepy, so I thought I'd do a bit of hunting in ESO or something. Ah, speaking of which, Barachu broadcasts today. There's no TV in my room, I get everything done on my PC.
あと15分ぐらいか。その前にトイレでも行っておこうかな。
Spotting Sarah next to my monitor, I grinned. Today, I'll be able to see Sarah. It's something I always look forward to. As I thought that, I was just about to close the chat window when...
あれ
Shogun posted something.
なんだよこいつ急に。
It wasn't a faithful lurker. Going by the file extension, it looked like a link to an image, but... A sudden link from someone suspicious. A person I didn't know, and on top of that, one who hadn't posted a single thing before. Without thinking, I gulped down a breath. What was going on? I'd never felt this kind of horrible premonition before. In all my life on the net, of course I didn't want to click it. I clicked my tongue and looked at the clock. 12 minutes until my promised time with Sarah. It's a good idea to cut off the conversation right away. Aha! Look, are you trying to use Zhongliang's trap here? The world changes if you click it. Whoa, wait. What's with the English, lol? I tried my best to sound like I was joking around to make it seem like I had plenty of relaxation to spare. Truthfully, I didn't want to chat with some guy I didn't know. I was nervous and it made me sweat. That's to say nothing of the fact that if this Shogun person wasn't Japanese, there'd be no way to deal with him. Sorry, I surprised you. Hey, he started talking to me normally. Mine was put to rest a little. Nah, no prob. Why were you lurking? Did someone tell you to go F off and lurk for half a year? I was thinking. What are you chatting from? Or where are you chatting from? For some reason, there was a weird gap. Shibuya. A vision of the new gen incident sprung to the front of my mind. They were gory enough with someone like me envisioning them, so in reality they must not have been something you could bear to look at straight on. A man's torn stomach, the fetus that was forcibly stuffed in the hole. The 5 who dove from that high-rise hit the ground, they must have gotten so badly messed up that there would be no way to tell what they originally looked like. Just imagining it made me feel sick to my stomach. I hastily shook my head to get rid of the gruesome delusions. This Shogun guy is so suspicious to make me think about all that stuff. I got seriously caught up in it. I'm in Shibuya too. Seems like a lot of strange incidents have happened lately. They're still happening. Shibuya.
なんだこれ
This? 1 to the 10th times integer to the 40th equals IR2. Was he just a freak or what? I said I'm smart, but I'd never seen the formula he posted out of the blue. I tried searching for it, just in case. At times like this, it's easier if you just run a search.
あれヒットしないな
Could it be that he simply typed in some random made-up formula to make himself seem intelligent? I didn't get it. The equation has killed the world's possibilities. I don't follow you. More importantly, what's the link from before? Would I get more out of it if I played along and clicked it, lol? I thought you might be interested. Countless URLs went up at an incredible speed. What's going on with this guy? Is he getting his kicks by intimidating me? Maybe he's a friend of Grimm, working together to pull the wool over my eyes. Seeing the gaze again, I looked around my room. Naturally, though, all that was there was the room's unchangingly dim and messy interior. An unidentifiable terror, since it was already normal for me to feel like I was being watched. I couldn't get myself to calm down.
僕を見るな
When I tried putting it into words, I realized that my voice was shaky. My familiar, messy room felt like something altogether different. It said that after you watch a fear-mongering TV program, or go to a horror movie, or hear a scary story from your friend, the careless air of your own house, which you should be used to, becomes so frightening that you can't go to the bathroom by yourself late at night. Right now, I'm having a similar experience.
くそ、釣られたりするもんか。
Shaken up and leaning in toward my monitor, without thinking, I put pressure into my right index finger and clicked on one of Shogun's links. Honestly, I don't know why I did it. It's not that my hand moved on its own or anything. Without thinking doesn't describe it at all. It was possible for me to regard it as a pure mistake, but the motion of clicking had come to me all but naturally.
なんだよこれ。
What filled the monitor screen was a photograph of an object d'art. Something like the spikes of a hedgehog or a needle-stuffed flower arranging tool was stuck to a wall in the shape of a cross. A reddish-black puddle had formed underneath the giant flower arranging tool, with its needles sticking out all over. And I couldn't make them out, but there was also a number of small, garbage-like lumps strewn around. Seriously, what was this? The work of some puffed-up, self-proclaimed avant-garde artist? They show up a lot. Those people who create gory-looking works and unabashedly say, it expresses the chaos of this world. I had no intention of coming to understand that kind of moronic art. Still, it was a mysterious image. It wasn't directly Guro. It only reached the point of having a Guro-esque sense to it. I'm probably mispronouncing that. Despite that, why? Did it feel so raw to me? Why did it give off such a strong presence? Is it possible to hallucinate the scent of blood entering your nose enough to make you choke? Is it possible to experience an illusory smell so vivid that it brings about nausea? That should probably be illusionary or something, not illusory. I mean, maybe illusory is a real word. I've certainly never seen it actually used, so I've got no idea for certain there. A stabbing pain struck at my temples. My nausea wouldn't stop. I desperately tried to grab my mouse, but my hand was shaking and it didn't go well. I was so frantic that I failed to grasp it and it slipped off the desk, dragging only its cord behind it. I reeled in the cord, set it back on the mousepad, and closed the window. And what leapt into my relieved sight was... Whose eyes are those? I glared at my self-titled minimum attendance shift chart. Yesterday, I didn't get to watch Burashu in real time, but after that I watched on YouTube, so it wasn't a real problem. Even after watching it, something still felt wrong. What Shogun said right before I closed the chat window. It was almost as if he'd seen through the fact that I cowered in fear of God's gaze. It was too much for a mere coincidence. Maybe my personal information was leaked on ESO? Maybe it was someone who didn't like Nightheart. I thought about the different possibilities. A godlike existence like mine has many allies, but also many enemies. Well, the enemies were basically a kind of side effect of the popularity. Of course they'd be. People who envied Nightheart's strength and popularity childishly tried to provoke me. It was just a matter of ignoring them. This was different. The fact that I had no clue who Shogun was worried me to the point where, when I logged into ESO, I couldn't concentrate at all on hunting. On top of it all, today was...
最悪の日だ。
It was a school day. According to my minimum attendance shift chart, I had to go. I really didn't want to, but if I didn't go by my minimum attendance shift chart, my calculations would get messed up, and in the worst case scenario, I might have to repeat a year.
眠いのに。
I fought off a yawn and shrugged off towards school. It was about 10 minutes to walk from my base to school. My mood sank lower soon after I started walking. My body felt heavy, it was hard to breathe, and I started to sweat. It's always like this when I go to school. Why do I have to go to school? It's such a painful event. Muttering, balefully to myself. I kept moving my feet forward all the same, head down, watching the asphalt's white line. I entered Shuto Park. The school is right on the other side. Housewives took their morning walks and salarymen sat on the benches reading sports newspapers around the park's pond. Even though Shibuya was so crowded and noisy, the park on the outskirts was quiet and perfectly fit the expression, a place for relaxation. I sat down on one of the benches too. On the way to school, it was a habit of mine to eat breakfast while gazing at the surface of the pond, brimming with serene water. It was a nice time of year and the trees were gradually gaining color. Today's menu was some breakfast bread I had bought at a convenience store along the way. It would be enough to tide me over until night. I wouldn't normally eat lunch. No one wanted to eat lunch with a creepy otaku like me, and I had no interest in eating lunch myself while everyone around me merrily ate together. After finishing my cream-filled bread with some Coke, I gazed listlessly up at the sky. Somehow, the skies of Shibuya always appear drab. It doesn't matter what season it is, the sky doesn't change. My parents' house was only a few stations down along a river, but there's a distinctly different feeling between there and here. That said, I like the dullness of the sky, although I don't really know why. I glanced at my watch to check the time. If I didn't get going soon, I'd be late. I had to avoid that at all costs. As someone who only goes to school 2.5 times a week, I couldn't do anything to make myself stand out. In any case, it was important to just be there, kind of like the air. To safely and peacefully make it through the day without catching the eyes of the teachers or any delinquent types, and without having anyone interfere with me. That was the goal of my school life. I attend Suime Private Academy. It doesn't have much of a history. I hear that it was founded about 10 years ago. The building is neat and trim looking, and a lot of TV dramas about teaching are shot there. The uniforms were apparently designed by a famous designer, so quite a few of the girls are airheads who entered the school just because they wanted to wear the uniform. It's ostensibly a prep school, but the percent of people who continue on to college is at the upper middle level. Hilariously enough, they use the blurb, "a free creative school atmosphere," as a selling point for new students, regardless of the fact that the school restrictions are very strict. Although the rules are in the process of becoming rules only in name. Besides, it isn't entirely off the mark to describe it as a free creative school atmosphere, I guess. After all, someone like me who only comes 2.5 times per week can keep rising to the next grade like anyone else. As might have been expected, when I reached the front of the school, the other students on their way there started getting noisy. But since I'm not so good with crowds, I hunched over as I passed through the school gates. In my heart, I went on fervently reciting, "No one talk to me, no one talk to me," over and over. My little sister, who's 1 year younger, goes to this school too, but she lives with my parents. A day when I run into her is a tragic day indeed. Luckily, today I managed to get to my classroom without encountering her and in one piece. I quickly took my seat so as not to meet anyone's eyes. I had the feeling that the group of girls chatting nearby tossed me a look, but it was only for a second, and they went back to their conversation without saying anything. Deep down, they viewed me as a creep, no doubt about it. From my point of view, 3D girls are far more creepy. It's fine by me if they think I'm a creep. If they don't notice I'm here, all the better. If they just do that, then I'll go on living in silence without giving them any trouble. I often wonder what's wrong with the people who call me creepy. I don't get it. It almost seems like they want the attention of the people they're calling creeps. I was in my seat, just hunched over my desk, staring at its surface.
Yo, Taku.
Suddenly, someone smacked me lightly on the back. It startled me and I raised my head.
お前、今日って学校来る日だっけ？三角くん。
My classmate, Bismi Daisuke. He was giving me a grin. He was pretty good looking and all the girls seemed to like him. He himself openly declared how much he liked women, and for him to say he was dating several people at once. From my perspective, he was a guy who jumped fully into delinquent territory. If possible, I'd have preferred to not have any connection to him at all, but... Oh, I think I will need to adjust the sound just a little bit. Background music, there. Sound effects, about 50%. Voice, about 50%. That should be fine.
別に
He was the only person in the entire class who talked to me. I wondered why he always started talking to me. Our hobbies and personalities aren't even slightly similar. It had been on my mind since we became classmates this year. If, hypothetically, I were a girl, I would kind of understand, but being a guy, I don't know why he talked to me.
引きこもりだからしゃあねえかもしんねえけどよ。もっとこう、ハキハキ答えろって。
If I could, I'd have done so a long time ago. It was almost painful for me to talk to 3D human beings. Anxiety keeps my voice from coming out properly since I don't normally talk much, I can't articulate myself well through speech, and I shrink back because I'm scared I might say something stupid and be made fun of. I wish people wouldn't talk about stuff like they know anything about. I wish people wouldn't talk about stuff like they know nothing about. That's not proper English. That should probably be, I wish people wouldn't talk about stuff they don't know anything about. I don't know why you put like, whatever. They have no clue how hard it is for me. Oh, but I am no hikikomori. A hikikomori is someone who stuffs himself in his room 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. I'm different.
女相手に緊張するならともかく、そういう態度されると、俺らホモと思われるじゃねえか。
Hold up. He really doesn't like girls, and he's really into guys? In a hurry to put some distance between us, I pulled away. I almost fell out of my chair. Flustered, I had to grab onto my desk.
何してんだお前。
三角君はホモなの？
え？なわけねえだろ。お前、俺の女好きを忘れたのか？
だよね。はあ、ビビった。
ちなみに。
Ismay quickly checked out our surroundings, grinned and lowered his voice.
昨日、このクラスの女子で3人目を落とした。誰だか聞きたいか？
いいよ、別に。
だよ、もっと興味示せよ。田中だぜ、田中。
田中って誰？
お前、もうすぐ10月だってのに、未だに同じクラスのやつの顔を覚えてねえのか。ま、3次元に興味ないんじゃ、それも当然か。
Exacerbated, he shrugged his shoulders and let out a sigh. However, up until the present, he had never once belittled me for my hobby. That is, the fact that I love 2D characters. He didn't call me creepy or anything. It wasn't to his taste, so he didn't overstep himself. Looking at that side of him, he didn't seem like such a bad guy. This might have been why I unintentionally fell into conversation with him whenever he started talking to me.
これでうちのクラスの可愛い女はほぼ攻略完了だ。そろそろ隣のクラスにも守備範囲広げようかって思ってんだよ。
Maybe he isn't that good of a guy after all. If the girls overheard this, I think they'd be appalled.
D 組によ、めったに学校来ねえけど、すごくいい女がいるらしいんだよ。なんか、そういう、燃えねえか。あ、お前の場合は燃えるんじゃなくて、燃えだっけか？
I wish people wouldn't toss around the word moe without knowing what it means.
ま、お前の興味ねえ話は、そろそろやめるか。じゃあよ、ニュージェネの話、知ってるだろ？
Honestly, it surprised me to hear those words coming from his mouth. I thought he was a person who didn't think anything about anything other than women. I couldn't picture him watching the news or reading the paper.
集団ダイブの事件さ。あれも、 噂によると殺人らしいぜ。
へえ。
マジだって、書いてあったんだよ、スポ島に。
So his source was a sports newspaper. Wouldn't that make it completely unreliable? Besides, I'd already heard that news, not that it had caught my interest.
で、聞いて驚け。その殺人鬼が女で、しかもかなり美人だって目撃証言があんだよ。
女。
As I watched Misumi tell me this excitedly, the dots finally connected. I saw why Misumi had suddenly started reading the sports paper, which he normally wouldn't have given the time of day. It had to do with the girl. I guess you could call this a natural development. Would he be cool with a murderer, so long as she was cute? Speaking for myself, I'd be okay with that if she were a 2D character, but... Misumi cast his eyes at the blue sky beyond the window. His face took on a far-off look. Why does it look like he just achieved enlightenment or something?
どんなやつなんだろうな、犯人って。本当に美人なのかな。会ってみてー。
Just now, I became certain of the fact that this is a guy who lives solely through the lower half of his body.
俺だけは殺されねえ自信があんだよな。だってほら、俺ってかっこいいだろ。いくら連続殺人鬼でも、俺みたいないい男に会ったら、コロッと惚れちゃうぜ。
That's why you won't get killed? The frivolity of his train of thought whooshed clear over my expectations. I reeled back from the Misumi who proved himself able to say such a thing breezily and without hesitation.
僕は興味ないから。
でもよ、興味ないっつったって、犯人は絶対この辺うろうろしてんだぞ。どっかですれ違ってたりするかもしんねえし。
What if Misumi was the killer? No, I could certainly rule that out. I could certainly rule that much out, but I couldn't completely deny the possibility that it was one of the students here. If that were the case, maybe I should say I have PTSD to maneuver my way into graduating even with insufficient attendance.
な、今日俺と一緒に殺人現場見に行かね。ここから歩いて行けんだってよ。まだ血とか残ってるらしいぞ。
I had absolutely zero interest in doing so. All I wanted was to peacefully and safely take my classes, hurry up and go home, read my Seira, and return to the world where I can become a god.
もう小橋と長谷川は見に行ったって言ってたしよ。
本当に興味ないんだ。
I felt bad for turning Misumi, who was getting so into it, but I couldn't go along with it. Let's go green. So, I squeezed out my voice with the intention of somehow refusing him, but he wouldn't listen.
そしたら犯人とばったり会っちゃったりしてな。犯人は犯行現場に戻ってくるってよく言うだろ。んで、次はタクがターゲットにされるんだ。死をもって罪を償え。みたいな。罪状はそうだな。引きこもってたからってことで。
Of course, there was no reason for me to want to see blood or anything. That kind of thing is too terrifying. It wasn't a haunted mansion type attraction or a horror film. People were being killed in real life, and the perpetrator still hadn't been caught. I didn't want to go anywhere that might be even a tiny bit dangerous. Even so, I found myself wondering about the new-gen criminal's motive. Were the incidents pleasure killings by someone with a couple screws loose in his or her head? It might be most fitting to think along those lines. Well, whatever. It had nothing to do with me. By the way, I'm also a mass murderer. Despite having killed so many, I'm treated like a hero nevertheless. Inside ESO, that is. LOL. That comparison alone is enough to prove that the 2D world is unquestionably better than the real world. While fanatically turning down Misumi's invitation, I internally pictured myself throwing one straight punch after another. A murderer, you say? I'd smash a guy like that to pieces the second I met him. By sinking into delusions like that, I was capable of killing or saving anyone. Someone who tried to enact it in real life would be a pure idiot for not thinking about the consequences. Even the new-gen killer would have to get caught pretty soon, and after being put in jail for several decades, they'd get executed. I wanted to tell that killer. Aha! If only you'd stuck to doing it in your imagination and left it at that. I went out to buy dinner. I was on the road to the neighborhood convenience store I usually frequent. It's about 3 minutes from my base by foot. Familiar scenery, a filthy street. But unlike any other day, today I was attacked by this peculiar sensation that I had gotten lost in a different world altogether. Although the scenery itself hadn't changed, it was as if I were setting foot in this place for the first time. Apparently, this is called ChäoS Vu. I've looked it up online before. Also, the rotten stench of raw garbage was floating in the air. The seeping moisture that clung to my skin was enough to make me mistakenly think it was raining. The air seemed to paste itself to me. A sound. I faintly heard the sound of something being dragged along. I stopped my feet and listened closely. The sound was coming from the depths of a narrow alley that bent away to the left of where I was standing, or so it seemed anyway. There were no street lights and no light came from the nearby houses, which was why I couldn't quite tell what lay at the end of the road, even if I strained my eyes. To think that a place of such deep darkness could be found in modern Japan, not to mention in Shibuya, which is right up there with Shinjuku when it comes to being labeled a city that doesn't sleep. It was kind of like being in a haunted house. No, there's one aspect in which it differed conclusively from a haunted house. That was the fact that this darkness wasn't man-made. I didn't want to go there. It would be better not to go there. In my heart, I kept warning myself. But, as if I were being sucked in by the sound that continued unbroken, my feet took an inexplicable step forward. The fear that something awful would happen if I kept going. My heart pounded violently. A greasy sweat poured down my forehead. Someone let forth a lovely noise. It reached my ears as a whisper. And that someone suddenly grabbed my forearm. It was so abrupt that I fell into a panic and tried to scream, but it wouldn't come out. And it took all my strength merely to expel air from my throat. Terror made me want to run away any second now, but my body wouldn't listen to me. My feet froze on the spot, and I wouldn't move a millimeter. The hand of the person... We'll keep going for a little bit. The hand of the person gripping my arm, it entered my field of vision. It was deep green, as thin as a mummy's, with countless veins protruding. It didn't look at all like it belonged to someone living. It truly won't have been strange for me to fall on my ass right there and lose control of my bladder. Yet, her voice was oddly easy on the ears, and my erupting fear steadily came under control. That low, tense voice. I slowly turned around. The first thing that flew into my eyes was the Suime Academy emblem. It's something that's been sewn onto the breast of all Suime uniforms. I could tell she was a girl from the fact that she was wearing a skirt. But I didn't have the courage to look at the most important part, her face, because she was standing closer than I'd expected. It took all my effort to avert my eyes. Something was wrong here. Sensing that in a corner of my head, I took a second look at at my upper arm. A girl's delicate and feminine fingers were what was gripping my arm, even though all I had seen previously was a green Guro hand. Who was she? Who was this girl? What kind of face did she have? What kind of face was she looking at me with? What was she doing here? Various doubts ran through my mind. I couldn't bring myself to speak to her, so all I did was hang my head. Without my noticing it, the dragging sound had vanished. As though to replace that, What came from her body
たくみくん
was the scent of blood.
これはいい。
And I think that's a decent stopping off point, so we'll go ahead and end this part here. I will see you all next time, where we will continue Chaos Head. Or rather, as actually because of the fan patches, it's actually being labeled as Chaotic Head, which isn't obviously actually accurate. One of the fan patches basically moved the game to running on a more modern version of the engine used for Chaos Head, which is the engine used for Chaotic Head. Well, I don't think they have a game called Chaotic Head. I don't know why it's called that. Actually, now that I think about it, I really don't. I know there's Chaos Child. And then yeah, there's Chaos Head. I know the sequel is Chaos Child, which I would love to go and do Let's Plays of all the other. I believe this series of games is called Science Adventure Series or something to that effect. I know Steins Gate has an official English translation. I do own that. But I don't think the other ones have official English translations, and I think most of them are actually on console, not PC. So I'd have to, it's not really an option. Because I don't think fan translations exist for console games for the most part. I could be misremembering, but I don't think I am. Oh, well, I guess October 2020 Robotic Note got a PC release worldwide. I'll have to look into that. I did not realize that some of the other ones had started getting official translations. That's great. I would love an official translation of this game, to be honest. I'd buy it. But it ain't happening anytime soon, I imagine. Let's see, what other ones do we got? So, yeah, Chaos Child. I think that's only on console, isn't it? No, that actually does have a worldwide PC release of January 22nd, 2019. Okay, apparently I have not been keeping up with all these, apparently. I did not realize that more of them had gotten worldwide releases, so presumably English translations. And also, more of them were available on PC than I thought. That goes to show you that it's been quite a while since I last looked. So yeah, that'll be it for this part. I will see you all next time. Quick reminder, I do have a Discord and a Patreon. I do recommend joining the Discord if you want to stay updated on channel happenings, and the Patreon is if you enjoy the content on the channel and you wish to help support the channel. For as little as $1 a month, you can get early access to all of my videos. But until next time, a goodbye and farewell. Make sure I did save, right? Yes, I did. Just override it to double check. Yeah. So I will see you all next time. But until then, goodbye and farewell.